We are live. And hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Tuned Into Tennis with Myles David. I'm your host, Myles David. And to the right of me, I'm joined by one of my favorite Gen Z Black voices in the tennis media outlet sphere universe. I made all of that up, but I'm happy to be joined by Mr. Christian Basnight of Christian's Court. Hey, Christian, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Miles. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to be able to actually collaborate. I know we've been behind the scenes before we went live, talking and chatting and going through technical difficulties, but it is good to have you on the show again. This is my first time getting back in the mic on my own platform, so it's good to be able to share the space with somebody who has a really thriving and engaged platform like yourself with Christian's Court. So if anybody doesn't know about like who you are, what you've done in tennis, give everybody a little bit of a background as to what Christian's Court is and who Christian Basnight is.
Yeah, as Miles mentioned, my name is Christian Basnight. I recently just graduated college, actually, um, last month, where I got a degree in journalism as well as business. But I've kind of been doing my own like YouTube channel thing for a long time now. But I rebranded this year to Christian's Court, and really, I'm posting content, but I kind of want to. My mission with this platform is just building tennis and broadening its scope and reach because it's obviously a great sport and just trying to get more people involved and interested in what's going on.
People of a certain demographic and age group, because if you look amongst the crowd at certain tennis tournaments, maybe even Wimbledon, which starts tomorrow, you get a sense that like, is this just for old people? And
Yeah,
it's not like, I know there's an age difference between you and I. Like I'm a millennial, you're Gen Z, but there's still so many people in just those categories alone that love tennis but don't always feel represented or don't always feel like they have a platform to engage with other like-minded or similar age group people. And I think tennis could do a better job of that, but until they do, we're going to be pushing the agenda, you and I.
exactly. Exactly.
So today we are going to be talking about the 2024 Wimbledon Championships, which get started on Monday, July 1st. We are talking on the Wimbledon Eve, and we're going to be looking through all of the order of play on day one of Wimbledon. It's a tradition that the defending champion opens up center court. So we're going to dive into who's playing on center court, who's playing on some of the outside courts, maybe some matches that you might want to have pulled up on your ESPN Plus streams. I know myself, I'll have a laptop open, my television on, maybe my phone on a stream, because the first day of a Grand Slam gets real busy. So we're going to help you dissect where to look and what to look for on day one of Wimbledon. But before that, Christian and I are going to do a little bit of a 24, 48-hour news segment as far as what's been hitting the interweb, social media, and what's been headlining and trending on tennis just before Wimbledon gets started. And I'll have Christian lead the conversation on one of his favorite players that have kind of hit the news, because Arena Sabalenka has said or given some information just recently that her body may not be all the way up to par to actually compete in Wimbledon. But I haven't dug deep into that. And Christian, you've obviously dug a lot deeper than me. So what are we finding out about Miss Sabalenka today or yesterday?
Yeah, during her pre-tournament press conference, Arena said that she might not take the court in her opening round match against Amina Betkas, the American, due
Mhm.
to an apparent shoulder problem. And she said that the shoulder problem is pretty rare, and it's what forced her to pull out mid-match during her Berlin quarterfinal against Anna Kanskaya. And initially, I didn't really think too much of it, but clearly it's a serious issue if she's talking like this. And then two, that retirement against Kanskaya was the first time she ever retired mid-match in her professional
Oh
career.
wow.
So it's definitely more, yeah. So it's definitely a serious thing. And she's been posting content of her trying to rehab the shoulder issue, but it's honestly not looking too great. And especially her draw, kind of delving a little bit into the draw as well. Her first round opponent, Amina Betkus, I really haven't really heard that much about her, but
Mhm.
she is likely to face Donna Vekic, who holds a 6-2 head-to-head against her. That would be a second round match, so definitely not the best situation right now for the number 3 seed.
Number 3 seed, former semifinalist, two-time semifinalist, right? She got to the semis in 2021 and again in 2023. Who did she lose to in Oh, I was gonna ask who she lost to in
Yeah,
2022, but she lost to the Wimbledon ban that banned her and her entire country from playing.
right.
Which that didn't age well and still hasn't aged well at all. But
Mhm.
do you think she's going to take the court even with all of that conversation around her shoulder and it being like a rare issue? Do you think she's still going to take the court if she feels like, it might be a little testy?
I think she will. I think if she were going to withdraw, she probably would have already done it by now. So I
Mhm.
think she's going to at least try to give it a go, and she knows likely that her opponent isn't really that accomplished. And so, yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for her to kind of test it out. And like I said, it would be a strong test. I could see her for sure coming through this and winning, and then kind of being like, this isn't worth it, pulling the plug mid tournament.
I'd hate to see that because, like, in theory, I have her going pretty deep, but with shoulder issues and for whatever reason, because she's mentioned shoulder issues, I can't get those yips that she had in 2022 out of my mind now. And
Right.
I'd
Yeah.
hate to see her regress back to that. So if she feels like it's going to harm her rather than help her, especially with like some decent points to defend in the US hard court swing, um, maybe she should pull the plug. But I feel like Sabalenka doesn't get enough credit for being like a real fighter out there, you know? So
She is.
she might fight through it. She might put a whole bunch of tape on that shoulder and just, pull a Serena 2010 Australian Open and just go out there like a mummy and give it give it give it her best shot. We shall see. We shall see. Something else that's been in the headlines lately is whether or not Sir Andy Murray will be taking the court um, for his final, quote unquote, final Wimbledon. I'm given the fact that he's announced kind of the press kind of announced it before he did, but given the fact that he just had a operation on his spine a handful of days ago to remove a spinal cyst, it makes me
Mhm.
uncomfortable. It really makes me personally uncomfortable knowing that he's like really pushing to take the court. But I'm wondering what you think um about Andy Murray and like this whole saga around his body before he really hangs it up for real.
I for sure understand where he's coming from because this is one within the most important tournament to him, and
Mhm.
he wants to give a proper farewell to the sport and obviously this tournament. So I can definitely understand why he's trying to give it his all, and he even said that he's going to make a decision tomorrow, Monday, the day of the tournament, and whether he's actually going to like go at it. So obviously not the most ideal situation for him. I think too. I don't know if it might be better to hang it up at the Olympics per se, rather than doing something here and risk like having a nasty, ugly moment on court and just having to retire. I think the best case scenario for him is maybe like I think he was interested in playing doubles with his brother Jamie too. So honestly, maybe just go out like that on censor court.
Mhm.
If the issue is really that bad, but yeah, it's just it doesn't look good for him at all.
I have been battling some things when it comes to Sir Andy Murray, and I just don't know. I don't know where I like if I was in his camp, I'd be just as confused as I am now, not in his camp, Like because he clearly has done enough to warrant a celebration of his career, especially on the Wimbledon stage. But everything has a cost. And I don't know if the lasting image people would want to see of him at Wimbledon is a clearly hobbled version of him, like we saw at
Yeah.
Eastbourne when he pulled out 5 games in. Like that was tough to watch, especially when you look at the total scope of his career. He's been known to like really dig in and really get the most out of his tennis in a landscape full of Roger Federer, Rafa, and Novak, who was eating everything up, and he still made space for himself to be a legend in his own right. I don't know. It's just like I said at the top, it's just difficult for me to see somebody that has just had an operation on the table go and play singles or doubles. Like regardless of what it is, he's going to have to utilize his entire body. And I don't know if it was if I had like the say so, I kind of would whisper in his ear, just let them hold a ceremony for you. Like, don't even play. Like, pull out of the tournament. I know that sucks in the like micro section of it, but like just allow them to do. Remember what they did a couple years back, where they had all the former champions just walk onto the center court and like they were applauded.
Yeah.
Have that for Andy Murray, but in a grander sense where it's just focused on him. I don't know if
Hmm.
Wimbledon. I don't know if Wimbledon has like a digital screen anywhere like the U.S. Open does, but quickly put together a montage of his best moments of him making the finals, eventually winning. Do something like that because I don't know. As a normal human being that's not an athlete, I can't imagine going out there so quickly and playing with all that stakes and pressure and stuff and want to perform and live a healthy life afterwards because the man has 4 kids. Like I don't want to go out there. I don't want to view him on television and see something like we saw with Serena in 2021. That felt, I guess, because I'm more emotionally connected to Serena, but that felt like a, ooh, she might not ever play again type of moment. Luckily, she did,
Hmm.
and she kind of went out on her own version of a high, with her highest level for what she had trained for.
Hmm.
I don't want to see that for Andy Murray. I want to see him be able to just like safely go to the net and shake hands and I don't know, wrap it up. But then again, the Olympics are coming up, and he's being stubborn about that too. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Andy
Yeah.
Murray.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, is it really that deep for you to play the Olympics on clay? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
but his career is so intertwined to the Olympics because he's the only tennis player to win singles gold twice.
Right,
Like,
back to back, yeah.
yeah, back to back. So I guess and I think that's something he really hangs his hat on, as he should. He's the only man to do it, and I don't know. I'm looking at this picture I posted now with him in that Yonex bag. I don't know why it took him so long to try a new racket because that that should have been something he tried years and years ago and stuck with
Yeah,
it. Because like trying it weeks before you're about to retire, sir, come on, come on, come on,
yeah,
Andy,
that's
come on, Andy.
unserious.
very, very unserious. Okay, before we get into the day of play on Monday, anybody else you want to, or any other news stories you want to talk about? Any recent champions that you think could cause some noise?
So just going over the champions from this weekend, there
Hmm.
was Taylor Fritz who won Eastbourne. I believe that was his third title in Eastbourne. I
Hmm.
believe. I think yeah, I read that somewhere, and his eighth overall. I don't think he played a seeded player there en route to the title, but still a good effort for him in winning it. You know, he loves to scam a good 250 like Casper Ruud. Um, and then
Not scam.
Alejandro, I gotta call a spade a spade. Like this is like his. He won Delray Beach. He won like, anyways. Um,
He does have
Alejandro
three.
Tavia,
He has three 250s in the span of a year, so he might as well just be number one in the world.
yeah, exactly. And then in Mallorca, where Eubanks was the defending champion, Alejandro Tavilo came through, and I honestly, I was very surprised at his form on grass because you think like, you know, he made that semifinal run in Rome and he was like, oh, that's a clay court player, but he can really play well on the grass. So I was very impressed by his ability to come through there. Got a good
Hmm.
win over Monfils in that semifinal. I think he's in the section. He's actually in the section of Fritz, I believe. I think he is. So if those two were to play, for sure that'll be an interesting third round match. And then going over to the women's side, I think that was all the men's um, tournaments. Over to the
Hmm.
women's side, there were two 500 champions, of course, two Russians actually. First, Princess
Oh
Diana
yeah.
Schneider. Yeah, they both were Russians, but yeah, Princess Diana Schneider. She picked up her biggest title to date in Bad Homburg. She defeated Donna Vekic in the opening round. I mean, not the opening round, the final. So that was a great effort from her to come through there. And she gets a tough opener though at Wimbledon and Carolina Pliskova. So that's for
Hmm.
sure a popcorn match there. And then the other 500 champion is Daria Kasatkina. She took out Lila Fernandez in straight sets. That match was not pretty, but a win is a win nonetheless for her. Great to see Layla though back in a big final like that. So Yeah, those are. I think those are the four champions on
I
the
put
main
on
tour.
Twitter, I think the WTA or the LTA or something. I have to flush out why the LTA just calls themselves the Lawn Tennis Association with like no other connection to like does that ever stick out in your mind that they call themselves just the Lawn Tennis Association and every other association is like the French, the Australian, the United States, and they're just like the lawn.
I never really thought about it, but yeah, that is really. They always love to do
Yeah,
stuff different over there,
for the
and
longest, I thought it was the London Tennis Association, but no,
yeah,
like the UK
same.
is bigger than just London. So anyway,
Oh, we got a
I
comment. We got a
oh
comment from Hot Phenom Rush. With
Nigel,
these
yeah. Hey Nigel.
with these with these players playing longer, I think it's becoming more complicated to know when they are done. I think that's a really good point.
Mhm.
People are playing much later into their careers, but I think honestly, 40 is probably. I mean, it depends on the body, of course. It depends on like for of course Nadal isn't going to be playing as long as Novak, and even in that Federer documentary, Nadal talks about he's even surprised that he's made it this long playing tennis. So I think it depends on like your style of play, your game. Andrew Murray, of course, has a very like grinding, taxing game style. He's had that for the longest time, and ultimately, while he got some great achievements out of that game style, it comes at a cost, and that cost is his body. So for sure, I think one of the biggest things is just age. And I'm not age.
Age,
I mean, and your playing style and other
yeah.
factors, of
Because
course.
if you decide to shorten up the points when you get closer to 30, it might help you if you have like some small. I have to find another word to replace niggling because I know you and
I
I
was gonna
feel the
say
same way
niggle,
about that word.
niggle.
I
Yeah,
don't like the uses of that word. But yeah, all of those things are things you have to consider when you're going out on the court, which makes tennis like the players say all the time, which makes tennis such a more mental game than people really want to give it credit for because there's all kinds of things that you're juggling at once, and in literally having to focus on a ball and an opponent across the net from you. So that's why we love it. So let's get into the order of play for Monday, July 1st. I said earlier in the show that Wimbledon has a tradition of the defending champion, the men's defending champion, opening up the first day of play on center court. And that would be none other than Mr. Carlos Alcaraz Garcia, like one of my friends would like to call him specifically. Um, he is the 2023 Wimbledon champion and will be opening up center court Monday. Let me get his picture up here. There we go. Look at Carlos on the screen. He will be opening up at 1:30 London time against Mark Lahal of Estonia, which is a pretty good draw because between me and you, I've never heard of Mr. Mark Lahal from Estonia, but
yeah. I had to do a
Carlos
little.
Alcaraz.
Yeah, I had to do a little bit of research on him. I saw on X there was a picture circulating of Lahal in dreads, which is very interesting as he is a Caucasian man. But
Interesting.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he rocks that hairstyle in the match. I'll definitely put some eyes on him. I can already see the
Right.
memes on Twitter. But Lahal, he came through qualifying. He got a good win over, I believe, James Duckworth in the final round. And Duckworth, he's a decent player on the grass too. So I don't think that Lahal will cause a big upset. But I think I low key would not be surprised if he got a set at least off of the defending champion.
The defending champion better not go out there and play around with this guy and drop a set. Like,
Yeah,
that was part of his journey to the French Open title, which I guess was fun. But I do think although I'm all for the entertainment factor of Carlos Alcaraz, but in those early rounds, I do think you need to be focused and efficient because that's kind of setting the groundwork for what you're going to do for the next 2 weeks if you're in the tournament.
right.
If you have long walkabouts, as they call it, where you're not really focused on the job at hand, somebody in the locker room is going to be picking up on that, and the next time you play them, they might take advantage of that. And that's just not that's not fun. Although I do appreciate a competitive match. First day at Wimbledon, Carlos, go out there and show us what you're made of. And if the points are fun, then they're fun. But just be
Right.
efficiently crush the guy that we've never heard of. Like that's what people are going to be sitting there wanting to see. Like if it gets competitive, sure, like we'll clap our hands, but go out there and do what you have to do. Do you have
Exactly.
him? Do you have him going far again this Wimbledon? I mean, obviously he's one of the. I'm not a betting man, but obviously he's one of the betting favorites. Do you have him going pretty far?
I do. I have him reaching the semifinal, at least, where I have him facing Yannick Sinner. I think his draw is definitely one of the better ones out of the top four seeds. His projected, who's his projected? Yeah, he's projected fourth round opponent, which would be his toughest, of course, in the first week, would be Ugo Humbert. And
Mm-hmm.
while Humbert, I think, does have the game to beat Alcaraz because he has such a big game that complements the grass courts very well. He's just so streaky himself, the Frenchman, and I don't even know if he will go through to make the fourth round. But especially if Humbert loses early, which I think he might, then it's a great opportunity and great draw for Alcaraz. And I also believe too he's projected to face Casper Ruud in the quarterfinal, and we know Ruud is not making the quarterfinal. So that's a beautiful draw for Alcaraz.
If you can't see my face and you're listening to this back just via audio, the face I just made of Casper Ruud even getting past the third round is ridiculous. I actually think I have Casper Ruud losing in the first round, just because he takes his grass court preparation as serious as I take the gym currently, and neither of those things are getting us very far.
I'm dead.
Neither of those things getting us very far, but I do think Carlos Alcaraz has a good a shot as anybody of going far in the draw, if not lifting his second consecutive title. And I do think, just kind of flushing that idea out, if he wins his second consecutive Wimbledon, I know the changing of the guard, and I hate that phrase, we got to find something else to replace that too. But if he does that, I think he'll be the first person in years not named Djokovic, Nadal, or Federer to defend a Grand Slam title. It's been years since any one of those three men, since anyone outside of those three men have done that. So that really, in my mind, will step him up even another level in his under 23-year-old greatness. Because, yeah, he's doing some pretty incredible stuff.
Right.
All right, so that's Carlos Alcaraz and his opening match on center court tomorrow. Let's get to the following match on center court, and that will be none other than Ekaterina Alexandrova, who is the number 22nd seed and does have a pretty consistent grass court pedigree, although she's kind of scared of going deep at Grand Slams. I've noticed she don't really like it past that fourth round. She don't like it, but somebody who does know how to navigate past the fourth round and has done it before is her opponent, Emma Raducanu. And Emma Raducanu was awarded a wild card into the main draw as a former Grand Slam champion and obviously a favored Brit. So where do you, I'll let you lead us in this segue, or in this segment, Christian. Where do you see Miss Raducanu, and where do you see that match going, if anywhere at all?
So I actually picked Raducanu to come through out of that section to make the quarterfinals. And one might think that that's a really bold pick, and in some ways it is, especially because she has such a tough opening round match against Alexandrova, who's great on the grass. But I think that she's been impressive on the grass this season herself. She is hot off her first ever top 10 win against beating world number 5 Jessica Pegula this past week in Eastbourne, and then she lost to the eventual champion, I believe, Kazatkina in the quarterfinal. And then she also had a strong showing in Nottingham 2 weeks prior. But yeah, I honestly am very confident in her prospects of going pretty deep in this tournament. We also have to consider too that she has the full crowd behind her back. And then Alexandrova, as you mentioned, not the biggest match player. She's not a player that really thrives off playing on a center court. She's more a court 17 type of player, not a center court type of player. So it'll be interesting to see how she handles that occasion. Low key, it might be her first ever match on center court, so that'll be something to consider for her too. But yeah, which is kind of crazy, seeing as how long she's been on the tour. But when you don't do well in slams, that happens. But I just think that
has she cracked the Wimbledon, or even not even just Wimbledon? Has she cracked the Grand Slam quarter at least once?
No, she hasn't.
No?
Her best result was no. Her best result was fourth round Wimbledon last year, I believe.
Okay, so and now she has points to defend. I don't think that'll like make her drop tremendously if she loses first round, but it will affect her ranking points, you know. So
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that. So that's interesting. Maybe Emma can kind of use that to her advantage because Emma lost here first round. Oh, she didn't even play here last year, did she?
Mm-mm. She was
She
recovering from surgery last year.
Yeah, I remember that picture she posted in on Instagram in the hospital bed. Didn't she have surgery on both of her wrists, or was it both of her ankle and one wrist, or was it both of her wrists and one
It
ankle?
was both, I believe, both wrists and one ankle.
Jeez.
Yeah, triple homicide.
But I will say I didn't watch all of this match, but I did watch. I don't know if somebody on YouTube posted like Emma's best shots against Pagula, but that match she won against Jessica Pagula in Eastbourne was fantastic. And just for those like maybe 5 or 6 minute highlights, it reminded me how good she can be. It's just that I want to be able to see
Hmm.
all of that. I want to be able to see all of that on a more prolonged basis because like although it's hard, I don't say that it's easy. That's what gets you to being a memorable factor in tennis is doing the things that you're good at consistently across different surfaces or across different parts of the calendar. And she's just been like kind of all over the place with that. That's why she gets a lot of flack on socials for being like, people call her the one slam wonder, a fluke, all that good stuff. And technically, she is a one slam wonder. She has won exactly one Grand Slam. So that's not necessarily all the way a slight to her, but it's no secret. The last couple of years have been either injury prone or, young 20 something with a high budget behind her name, kind of exploring what all of that means to be a person in the limelight for real, for real. So
Right.
I hope she does. I mean, how like tennis pundits are always like, we shouldn't root for one player over the other. When they cut me a tennis pundit check, then I'll start acting like that. I want Emma to win this match. Alexandrova is a great player, and Alexandrova can win Nottingham 17 different times if she wants to. But I want Raducanu to win this match and just, liven up center court a little bit. Because
I
Alexandrova winning
agree.
won't do that.
No, she won't. Yeah, I think
that
it'll. I
that won't
hate using
happen.
that term "good for the sport," but it would be better for the sport if I think if Raducanu did win that match.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to give people good, bad, or indifferent. It's going to give people something to talk about. Like, hey, did you see Raducanu actually won a Grand Slam match in 2024? Look at that. All things are possible. So, yeah, people aren't going to be going to their water coolers at work and say, no shade to Alexandrova, but they're not going to be like, did you see that Alexandrova match? I've maybe I don't know the right people, but I've never heard anybody in life say that. So sorry, Alexandrova. But I have heard people, and I think you can back me up on this. I have heard people talk amongst themselves in public platforms about Miss Coco Golf, who follows that match uh, with Raducanu on center court. And I am excited about not only that match with Coco Gauff facing Caroline Dolehide, a fellow American, but I'm excited about Coco's prospects at Wimbledon as a whole because she's played some grass. I think she's played a grass court tune-up in Berlin, and she made it to the semis, I want to say. Yes, where she
Hmm.
lost to Pagula, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was a rain interrupted match because rain loves to follow grass, regardless of if you're in London or Berlin. But she showed good fight as she always does. She showed just a general comfortability or high comfortable level on grass. And I think she can go very far with the draw that she has and an open around opponent that she should be able to knock out the Caroline Dolehide threat. What do you think?
I think so. Of course, I think she's going to be the big favorite here. But I feel like a lot of people are overlooking Dolahide because obviously she hasn't really done too much as far as like major accomplishments. But I think that she can be a dangerous player, especially if Coco's a little bit shaky or off. And I think Coco will recognize that because these two played one time before this year at the Australian Open second round, actually, and
Hmm.
Dolahide pushed off to a first set tiebreak. So I think
Hmm.
Coco will be on guard, especially knowing that she lost in the opening rounds to another American, Cannon, last year. So I do expect her to come out pretty sharp in this one. I said Dolahide is a little bit of a I don't know if I say threat, but definitely a player to watch out for. I said that because she's had some a solid tournament in Birmingham, beating the likes of Pliskova and Mertens and testing the eventual champion Putintseva in that quarterfinal. So for sure, I think that she can, of course, string together a couple games and actually give Coco a good test out of it. But I ultimately think the experience of golf, like it did in that Australian Open match, will come in clutch for her when things do get tight, if they do at all.
I hope so, and I hope her second serve comes to her aid when it needs to on center court. Because watching her throughout the 2024 season, although she's not had a bad season at all, I mean, obviously highlighted by the fact that this is the highest seed she's ever had in the Grand Slam. She's the number 2 seed, number 2 player in the world. Her season has been great. There have been moments, and quite a few of them, where you've kind of just had to hold your breath while she goes up there to second serve or winds up for a forehand, which provides entertainment but also stress. And Coco, I
Right.
could use a stressless first round and first day of Wimbledon. So I hope she makes that match efficient but fun. And she normally makes every match she plays fun. Remember that I think it was Jung Kin Win when they played in Rome, the match point where like Jung hit a really wild
Yeah, she had
forehand
to
and Coco had to
jump.
leap up. Yeah.
Hmm.
Give me something like that, because that match wasn't too eventful, but I'll take a Coco leaping up in the air moment. I'll definitely take that. So that actually is all of center court. I'm not sure if they're going to continue the trend of just keeping it 3 matches a day, but I do like the fact that it's 2 women's matches and only one men's match, because usually it's the other way around.
Yeah,
So
for
I'll take that.
sure.
But I
And
think they could.
that's something. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know a lot of people, or some people, were complaining about that on X, and they're saying, "Oh, why is Coco on center court? Center should be on center court instead." And I feel like anytime they put Coco on center court, especially before the second week, it's going to be a big discussion of why is she there. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Who are the people discussing that? Because I think they look a certain way and are fans of a certain player. Because that's that.
No, because I'm talking about. y- I'm not. It's not even that. You know Terry, right?
Yes, I do. I do. But Terry
You
is
know
Terry
he.
is Coco's number one op, so he's not gonna want to see her play in the back parking lot, really.
But yeah, it's it's not just Eagle fans, to be honest, but quite a few people. But Coco just has a big hate trend overall. It's not even just Eagle fans. A lot of people have a disdain for her, unfortunately.
Like, maybe I would have entertained the argument that Coco shouldn't be on the world's biggest court 18 months ago, before she had won the US Open and was world number 2. But as it stands right now, as a reigning US Open champion and number 2 in the world, she deserves, just with those 2 things alone, to be on the biggest court in the world, which is center court of Wimbledon. So miss me with all the other parts of the argument, because they would just be rooted in you not liking her instead of anything factual. Like, I wouldn't sit here and argue that Iga Swiatek should not play on Philippe Chatrier. Like, I'd sound foolish. Like,
Right.
even though I'm not her number 1 fan, that's exactly where she should be playing, as a 3-time. Wait, is she a 4-time? She's a 4-time Roland Garros champion now. So yeah, I wouldn't argue against her playing on Philippe Chatrier. So anybody arguing against Coco on center court is just plain old foolish. Uh, but there's a segue, because we can talk about somebody else who does foolish things on the court sometimes. And we're moving to number
Yeah.
one court, number one court, the second biggest show court. Daniil Medvedev opens up that court at 1 p.m. London time against somebody from the USA, who I've seen a couple of different times. I think this guy has a one-handed
Hmm.
backhand and can play some good tennis. Alexander Kovacevic, that's Medvedev's first round opponent. Medvedev is the 5th seed and is defending semifinal points from last year. How do you see that matchup going?
As you mentioned, Kovacevic is a decent player, but
Hmm.
doesn't have as much grass court experience from what I've seen.
Hmm.
And Medvedev, I think, although his form has not been that solid from what we've seen from him thus far on the grass, namely that Halle showing where he lost in the round of 16 to Zhang. I still think he should be the heavy favorite to come through. I don't really see him. Um, I mean, you never know with Medvedev. He could drop a
Right.
set
Foolish.
or two. Yeah, exactly. Especially it's a slam. He loves to play around, but
Hmm.
when it comes time to it, he'll wrap it up.
I hope so, because he's in an interesting stage of his career, don't you think? Like, he is what? He's not quite 30. I think he's pushing on 28 or 29, one of those.
Right.
And he already has his Grand Slam title. He has multiple Grand Slam finals to his name. He's been world number one. But doesn't it feel like he's slipped just a little bit, especially with like the maturation and development of Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner as like now two formidable Grand Slam champions and top ranked players? It feels like he's in the mix of important players, but not at the head of the mix, or even kind of number one, two, or three, you know?
Yeah, for sure he's not in the top three in terms of the discussion right now, and I'd argue, at least right now, not overall, because
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna cuss and say F Alexander Zverev, but
You
Zverev, I
can if
feel
you
like
feel so
it's,
inclined.
but Zverev right now has eclipsed him in terms of form, at
Mm-hmm.
least in the last 12 months or so, I'd say at least. But
Mm-hmm.
Medvedev, we can't forget, he really should be or could be at least three-time major champion. He should have won two Australian Opens. We were talking about the 2022 and 2024 editions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think low key, it might be a mental thing when it comes to him in terms of winning another Grand Slam. He's like Maria. I literally looked at Maria Sakkari because when you said his age, he is 28, and I looked up how old is Sakkari, and she's also 28. Which I'm like, side note, like, dang, she's really that old now.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of are similar in the fact that
Time out. Time out. You're
oh
thinking 28 is old because of your
no, I
age.
did not. No, 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 no,
In
no,
the
no, 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 no. That's
in the
not
regular world, if we if we zoom out of Wimbledon, a 28-year-old
right.
has their whole life in front of them. But you know, it's fine.
Exactly. I
Like
want
I
to
said to make
clarify
that
that.
clear.
I want to clarify that. I want to clarify that. And two, like, exactly, you're totally right. That's not old. Even in tennis terms, it's not really that old. But when I said I was surprised, it's just I thought that like you just think everyone is younger than what they actually are in tennis terms sometimes.
Hmm.
So I thought that he was. But anyways, that was a sidebar. But I say all that to say, like, it could be a mental thing, unfortunately, especially when it comes time to playing these players like Alcaraz. He was able to get that win over Carlitos in the U.S. Open. But of
Hmm.
course, last year at Wimbledon, he went out pretty meekly in straight sets in the semifinals. So um, he's for sure riding very much under the radar, in my opinion. So we'll see what he does here and whether he can somehow get it together and go on another deep run here.
I've heard from somewhere along the tennis grapevine that he plans to improve his return position and not return from Zimbabwe. So it'll be interesting to see like if a more aggressive Medvedev actually pays dividends on Wimbledon's courts this year. So I'll be kind of sort of taking a look at that. But we all know Medvedev is foolish and anything could happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that this player actually was on the order of play for today, and we've already talked about it. But I guess we can circle back to what may happen to Miss Arena Sabalenka because she plays Amina Betkis
Hmm.
of the United States. I think Betkis is kind of in the category of a journeywoman player, has played a whole bunch of tournaments on the ITF level and 250 level. But that's who Arena Sabalenka plays, and she comes onto the court not only with her regular confidence, being a two-time Grand Slam champion, Australian Open champ this year, but people are concerned about that injury that she may be carrying. So, where do you think that kind of puts her?
Initially, when we talked about Sabalenka, I was kind of thinking she should, even though she does have that kind of serious shoulder injury going on, she should at least clear this first round opponent. But
Mm-hmm.
now looking at some of Betkis's recent results, she is pretty solid. Um, she pushed she pushed Tomjanovic pretty deep, and
Why did you laugh before you said Tomjanovic?
because I know you're her biggest fan. You're her biggest
Yes,
fan,
number one.
but she's actually had somewhat decent like showings in her matches. So even though I don't think I've seen her play, I low key this might be kind of wild to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if she like low key beat Arena. And I'm primarily saying that because the shoulder is such a big problem for her. So
Interesting.
it'll be intriguing to watch there.
I don't want to turn my ESPN channel or ESPN Plus subscription over to court number one and see Sabalenka double faulting her life away. I don't want to see that. So if it gets to that point, Sabalenka, just take the L and retire, girl. Because I can't take that again. It was tough to watch it in 2022. I can't watch it again now that you've kind of corrected it, So but it works both ways, because I feel like Betkus, because she has a journeyman kind of status, she could work Sabalenka into form in a way, I don't know.
Yeah. We'll
just
see.
a whole bunch of stuff swirling around Miss Sabalenka at the moment, especially, she's trying to fight back to world number one. She's dealt with a lot off the court this year, losing a boyfriend and gaining a boyfriend all within a couple of weeks of each other. Mm-hmm. No shade, because sometimes you got to hop right back on the horse. But yeah, Sabalenka, I'll keep my eyes out on what Sabalenka does this year, because for the remainder of the year, I hadn't thought about it until literally just now, but I will keep my eye on what Sabalenka does and like where what her storyline kind of feels like as we lean into the end of the season, especially US Open time. See if I can find a good old picture of our Italian friend. I think I found one. Italian friend Yannick Sinner. He is also playing on court number one, and I don't know if this is the most flattering picture, but we're going to use it. I actually don't think this is most flattering picture. Not well, that's how I look, so you might as well just use it. This one looks a little bit better. All right, Senator, this is what you got. I think he does need a haircut. But all of that to say, he does need a haircut, in my opinion. And what he doesn't need is, I guess, our opinions on how to play tennis, because he's been playing damn good tennis all year. So I don't think he's lost before the quarterfinals anywhere, any tournament that he's played this year, like before the quarters. So that's a really, really indicative point of how he's playing tennis right now. And when I made my fantasy draw, he was my champion. I can go out there and say that. Oh, I didn't say that for Coco when we talked about her, but Coco was my champion. We'll circle back to who we have in our quarterfinals. But anyway, Sinner takes on, who does he take on first round? He takes on Yannick Kampfman. Yeah, another journeyman. To Yannick, I didn't realize that. Look at that. To another journeyman player from Germany, can pretty much do everything pretty well on a tennis court, but no major weapons that should throw off Sinner. So I think Sinner should handle that particular matchup with some ease. How do you see that?
I agree. I don't really have too much to say. I think I think Yannick should really take care of this one in straight sets. That's all I have.
Yes, Yannick, be Yannick. I can't get that out of my head. I think I follow the young lady who made like a fan cam edit of Yannick Sinner to the tune of Alien Superstar by Beyonce, but I can't get out of my head, nor do I want to, because I think that is very, very splendid. Okay, so we've talked about the two biggest show courts at Wimbledon. Now let's hop around a little bit as if we had ground passes at Wimbledon, which one day we will, because one year we're both going to walk in there with media passes and be able to go to whatever match that we want to. We'll speak that into existence.
By 2026, it'll happen.
Yes, we can even up 2025. Actually, by 2025, they'll be begging us to come on. No, I take that back. They won't be begging us, but they will allow us to come onto the court.
Right. Give us permission
with media credentials. Give us permission to touch the lawns. Okay. Pick a number: 6, 7, 8, or 9.
6.
6. Okay, let's go to court 6. They okay, not bad. So court 6 open up play with the gentlemen's singles first round match between Christian Garin, 2022 Wimbledon quarterfinalist, versus one of my up and coming players to really take a look at in the grand scheme of things, and that is Mr. Shang Jungqing, aka Jerry Shang. He's a lefty from China. He's been pushed, I guess, by like media and ATP, Tennis TV, all that stuff. It's like, a next big name. And I think there's potential there. He just hasn't had like a big, hey, look at me kind of moment yet in his career. I think he's made a couple of ATP 250 quarters or something along those lines. But I think that could actually be a interesting match because Christian Garin had to qualify to get into the main draw because I'm not really quite sure what to do with my feelings about Christian Garin because when I see him, I see a good tennis player. But it's like when I'm not watching him, like when he's on the tour and I can't find a stream to watch him, I have no idea what's happening, but he's not always winning those matches. But when I see him on my television, I'm like, this is a damn good tennis player. So I'm not quite sure what to do with Christian Garin,
Yeah, he's really odd. He for sure wakes up for the most part for the clay season, and then he's actually a solid grass court player too. He made the quarterfinal here at Wimbledon 2 years ago in 2022. Obviously, like you said, he had to qualify for this match, so I think it'll be definitely an intriguing one to watch for sure. I'm kind of looking at the other court six matches. Alexandra Mueller and Hugo Gaston. You mind if we skip that?
We can. I don't care either way. It's fine.
Because the only reason why I said that is like it's just not that interesting, and
Yeah,
I don't
neither
really
of
know
them are
much
going to
about
be lifting the
Mueller.
title. Yeah.
I think Donna Vekic and Xiyu Wang is intriguing somewhat. Vekic, of course, she plays well on grass. She just reached the on-board final, and Xiyu Wang, she is a talented young Chinese lefty. I wouldn't be surprised if Vekic bit the dust. She typically doesn't bring her A game at the slams, and I know that she had a long weekend about Hamburg, so I could see her being kind of rusty, and she has to recover pretty fast from playing a match tomorrow. So, for sure, an interesting match.
Yeah, Wang Jiyu is the lefty, to make sure everybody knows we're talking about the right Wang from China, because there's quite a few on the WTA tour, which I love, but you got to make sure you're talking about the right one. And I could see, I don't know Wang's history with grass, but I do know she is a decent enough player, can get enough balls back to kind of trouble Vekic. And on her day, Vekic can kind of test the best, but also on her not so good day, she can lose just by anybody. That's kind of where I've kind of put Vekic in that category of player. So yeah, I guess if I had a grounds pass, I would stop by that match for about a smooth 45 minutes and see which Donna was showing up that day. Because the winner of that match takes on the winner of Sabalenka's first round, doesn't it? I think, or somewhere in that section.
Sure does.
Is that what happens? Okay,
it does.
Second round for Sabalenka. Okay, yeah, so that could get interesting. Want to go to court 7? See anything interesting there?
It is somewhat like if you're a really hardcore tennis fan, it can be. First round match, not really too much. Border Tour is just the headlining star there. I don't know who Felipe Miligeni Alves is. Second round match between Arang Sharu. She's decent on grass. And then Yu Wang, she's been making big strides this year. She picked up her first tour title in Dallas or Texas. I don't know if it's Austin. I think it's Austin.
It was Austin. There. I remember watching it. Yeah.
Yep. And then I actually put this as a popcorn match. The third match between Alexander Vukic and Sebastian Offner. If y'all don't know who these people are, I don't fault you, but Vukic is he's been making good strides lately. He made the Eastbourne semifinals, losing to Taylor Fritz in a tight 2-setter, and then Sebastian Offner reached a pretty big, not big, well, big for him in Mallorca, the 250 there, falling to Alejandro Tabilo. So that could be an intriguing opening round for sure.
To be honest with you, based off of that lovely wrap up, Christian, I don't know if I'd be giving court 7 any of my time in the heat tomorrow. But more power to all of those players, and may the best man win. Best and women win. Actually, you know what? To make it Wimbledon terms, may the best gentleman and lady win. How about that? Because I do like the fact that Wimbledon does that. Court 8, just to kind of keep it going. Anything pop out between these 4 matches?
Yeah.
Like 2 gentlemen singles and 2
Yeah,
ladies
I think the first match on between Jan-Lennart Struff and Fabian Marozsan, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I probably butchered it. But both guys were impressive in Halle. I think they both made the quarterfinal. No, because Marozsan lost to Sinner, I believe. He lost to some good player. But yeah, Marozsan lost to Sinner, but Struff pushed Sinner the most in that tournament, 7-6 in the third set. And Marozsan has been making strides. And I think either of those players for sure is a dark horse pick. I actually probably foolishly put him in my men's power rankings for Wimbledon, which I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to be
I don't
edgy.
think that's foolish. I don't think it's foolish.
I should have put Dimitrov over him, but I tried this like ranking point system and I wanted to stay fair to it, but it is what it is. But I think he can for sure do something kind of big in this tournament. I think he's projected to face some player in the second round. Obviously, he will face the seed in the second round, being unseeded right now. I have to pull up the draw for a second, but that's that. Aside from that match, really not too much, to be honest. Eva Lise, she's a player that a lot of people have had eyes on too. She kind of reminds me of Andreescu in terms of her aesthetic. She plays Clara Burrell in the opening round. Lise had to qualify for that for Wimbledon, and Burrell, I mean, she could. It could be interesting.
Every time I say her name, I think about Kim Burrell, and Kim Burrell's not one of my favorite people. So, moving on. Also, Elisa Mertens is in there, and Elisa Mertens has actually won Wimbledon doubles more than once, I believe, at least once for sure. But
yeah,
I think she may have a couple Wimbledon doubles titles in her trophy cabinet. So, shout out to Elise Mertens. If you're a Mertens fan, go to court 8 and second on Monday. Let's scroll up and see what we had before 6. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Let's go
court 2 looks.
Oh, go ahead.
Court 2. Oh yeah, court 2 looks really good.
Yeah. Yes, let's stick our head into court 2 because I'm interested in this this little 4 quattro list of players competing. I had to stumble through that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
First up on court 2 is Grigor Dimitrov versus Dusan Lajovic, a throwback of one-handed backhand players. I feel like both of them have some strong one-handed backhands on tour, and they face off in the first round. Dimitrov is a number 10 seed, a former semifinalist at Wimbledon, has backed up the really, I don't want to say breakthrough 2023 because it wasn't called a breakthrough, more of a comeback 2023. He's backed it up very strongly in 2024. He made the quarters of Roland Garros. He won his first title in years at the beginning of the year in Brisbane. So, you know, he comes in with a fair amount of momentum. Dusan Lajovic is just tricky, but I don't think Dusan Lajovic loves the grass as much as Dimitrov does.
Yeah, that's, you said it best. Lajovic is he thrives more on the clay, and I don't really see Dimitrov being threatened too much at all from the Serbian.
Do you want to talk about Stan Wawrinka's match against Charles Broom? I don't know what Charles Broom looks like. Sorry to that man. He could be walking down the street and I wouldn't know a thing.
Yeah, Charles Broom, I'm on his Wikipedia right now. He's ranked like outside the 200, so
that would explain it.
A wild card. Yeah, he had to get a wild card. He actually made his ATP debut only last week, and he made it as a lucky loser.
How old is he?
He's 26.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of that's a really interesting decision. I don't know if maybe a nepo baby. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but I honestly think it's nice that like the LTA is giving wild cards to anyone. That's why am I being like that? That's not nice. No, but it'll be a great opportunity for Broom to make his name, especially playing on such a court like this and playing a Grand Slam champion in Wawrinka. Wawrinka does not really perform as good on the grass court. This will be his first grass court tournament of the year, so I think for sure it's
Oh,
a decent. Yeah, it could be an opportunity for Broom to really get his first ever. Would it be his first ever win? Low key, yeah, it would be his first ever ATP main draw win, which would be huge.
and Grand Slam win, which would be a nice check to go into that savings account or checking account, whatever
Yep.
one he chooses. Those are all nice matches, Christian. But I know if I had tickets to number two court, I would be waiting around maybe 2 p.m. or so to
Mhm.
watch Naomi Osaka take on Diane Perry because that's where the real action is. I know we both love Naomi Osaka. We've been pushing and really supporting her during this comeback from maternity leave. She's played some tough matches, i.e., the most recent one at a Grand Slam was a second round with Iga Swiatek, where she had a match point, didn't quite convert, but left a lasting impression. And she has played a couple different warm ups on grass, picking up a match win here or there. Grass obviously has not been her most successful surface, but she opens up against French woman Diane Perry. And do you look at this as a opportunity for Naomi or a first round kind of tricky opponent? How do you look at that?
For sure, the latter. And when I first saw the draw, I was like, "Oh, Perry, that's a excellent first round win, or opportunity, not win, but opportunity." But Perry, she is tricky. She's very crafty, and that will only aid her on this grass court surface. We saw Bianca Andreescu pull out the craft and the slices, the drop shots when they played in Alabama in the quarterfinal there, and that definitely tricked up the Japanese woman in that match. And Perry can for sure do the same
Mhm.
thing. She has an interesting game style, I believe single-handed backhand, and she had a good showing in Nottingham, making the semifinal there, pushing Pliskova to 3 sets. So I think Naomi should for sure be on guard. Definitely, it won't be a easy cakewalk, but I think that if she comes out, she serves well, starts well. There's no reason why, obviously, she can't win this match in straight sets. But I don't think it I predict it being a 3-set match, regardless of who wins.
Interesting. I think it could be a three-set match just because Naomi has kind of had the go away, whatever this ad. I hate an ad. I'm trying to show Naomi Osaka to the lovely people watching, and there's a whole ad in my screen. I hate it here. Um, like, geez, take us back to the days where MySpace was. You might not even know what MySpace is. Let me just stop.
I do.
Sorry, I take a dig at your age. I think this is a good opportunity for Osaka just in general because like it seems, knock on wood, let me knock on the wood that this laptop is sitting on, she hasn't picked up a like small annoying injury throughout this comeback really, and she's been playing tournaments. Like whether she wins or loses, like that's a separate conversation, but she's been able to play them consistently for the first 6 months of the year. And for that, I feel like that's something she should be proud of. Like there hasn't been a like to talk about injuries, Carolina Muhova, who's been on the sidelines for basically almost a year, came back, played 1.5 matches, and was like, "Oop, never mind. This wrist is still bothering me." She hasn't picked up anything like that, Naomi Osaka, and I think that's credit to her team, Wim Fissette, the head coach, and whoever's taking care of her body, and just how much she's scheduling and really, really wants to find the form that created a four-time Grand Slam champion. And let's say she doesn't go all the way at Wimbledon, which would be lovely, especially if she wins it on my birthday. That'd be a great birthday present. I think winning 2 or 3 rounds and like getting a strong sniff into the second week is another foot in front of the other foot, so to speak, for Naomi on this comeback. And I think the first round
Mhm.
gives her that opportunity, and hopefully she takes advantage of it and, you know, gain some momentum. And hopefully, whether she wins the tournament or not, which I mean, obviously there's a lot to happen before that. I want her to be able to like put her lovely head on a lovely pillow that probably costs thousands of dollars. I want her to realize that grass can be a surface that she can thrive on. That's kind of like if I could talk to her and like be inside of her head or whatever, I would want her to realize that, because from what I've seen just this season alone, grass can be advantageous for her. I just feel like she needs to fully understand and lean into that, you know?
I agree. And I think providing a nice transition to the next match, Naomi could face the winner of the final match on court number 2, and that is between
Mhm.
two Slam champions and Victoria Azarenka and Sloane Stevens. How are you feeling about that one, Miles?
Y'all can't see my face, and if you're listening to this back on podcast, my face just kind of gave what I think about this match. I am going to be interested to see which Sloane Stevens shows up. If it's going to be the Sloane Stevens that can lose to somebody ranked outside the top 200 when she's kind of being a little lackadaisical out there and not really fired up, then Azarenka is going to take it to her, because Azarenka doesn't really believe on coming to the court not ready to win, whereas Sloane can kind of ebb and flow in that direction. But Sloane is athletic enough to get to enough balls, I think, to make that matchup interesting. We've seen it be, this is wow, this is over a decade ago, but 2013, that was an Australian Open semifinal. Like, we've seen this matchup be able to produce deep into Grand Slams and really good tennis. I just don't know where Sloane is in her wide spectrum of feelings on the tennis court, you know? I'm not sure which one that she's going to show up with.
Sloane's so interesting to me because I thought for sure this would be her last year on tour.
Mm.
Um, I don't know why I thought that. Maybe because it's an Olympics year, but I shouldn't have thought that anyways because she wasn't going to qualify. But I don't know. It's like she's. I don't want to say. I'm just gonna be honest. Sloane pissed me off so much because she should be like, even last year. This might be a crazy statement, but she could have won Wimbledon last year, and I said that because she lost to Donna Vekic in a match that she had no business losing, and then Vekic went on to lose to Vondrousova in a tight match, and Vondrousova, of course, won the title. Like, she could have made the Australian Open final, lost to, I think, Kalinskaya in a match she had no business really losing. Well, Kalinskaya was decent, but like, it's just the stuff. And then she lost. Like, how you let Emma Raducanu bagel you like that? Like, you're not.
You're not a scrub, Sloane, and I don't think Sloane thinks she's a scrub. It's just that sometimes the like energy that she gives off the court obviously must read to the opponent on the other side of the net that, oh, she's not really playing well today, so let me spank her up a little bit, you know. Like, I wish
Yeah.
she's a literal Grand Slam champion and a top 5 player. I just wish she had a little bit more of that aura consistently, because we've seen her, like, I've seen Sloane walk around the court with swagger, but it's just so intermittent. Like, I just don't know when it's going to come and when it's not going to be there. It's just she's an enigma, but a really, really good one, and can play really good tennis when she walks out the bed and decides to, I guess. Let's quickly do a run around the other outside courts to look for some names. Oh, we mentioned court might be out of for noon because he he opens up number 3 court versus Australian Alex Bolt, who qualified, and he has had more time on grass courts this year than Casper Ruud has, and Casper Ruud has made no secret that, like, I think on one of those tennis TV engagement videos or like kind of behind the scene videos, Casper was like, I'm going to try to win at least 2 matches at Wimbledon. So he set his expectations fairly low for a top 8 seed. And I don't think I just don't think his intention is to really be at Wimbledon next week. And I don't think he sees himself at Wimbledon for a week or longer than a couple of days. So yeah, he might be on upset alert even with the qualifier.
Especially with the Olympics being right around the corner. I think he's not really too pressed about how he does here this year.
Yeah, another player that seems pressed to win every match she plays. Jasmine Paolini takes on Sarah Sorribes Tormo in the first round. That's going to be kind of a baseline grinder's dream, because neither of them try to miss too much from the background. And then after that, Madison Keys takes on Martina Trevisan. That's a very different style of play, going up against each other. Trevisan just kind of, does her grinding thing, and Keys tries to hit every ball inside the lines. we want your balls to be inside the line, Madison Keys, not the back fence. But And then, yeah, this is actually a pretty good court. I would stick around for this court because then the last match on is Tommy Paul, who just won Queens a couple weeks ago. He takes on Pedro Martinez. So, yeah, court 3 is a good place to be on Monday. I'd sit there.
I
Also,
agree.
kind of jumping around, Maria Sakkari is in action. She can't buy a Grand Slam win these days. So, she's on upset alert regardless of whoever she plays. Matteo Berrettini on court 12 after Maria Sakkari's match. He's a former Wimbledon finalist. He takes on Mark-Jan Fucsovics. That could be a very interesting match. They could be out there for a while. Also on that court, number 12, Mira Andreeva. I think you posted this, Christian. Isn't Mira Andreeva somewhere like in the top 8 or 10 betting favorites to win Wimbledon, even though she's like 17 years old?
Yeah, she has this interesting hype around her, and the odd makers just love her because they put her in all types of like betting her to win. Someone said, "Why is he a top 10 player on court 12?" I'll get to that in a second. I don't know who that was referring to and what top 10 player that was, but
Oh wait, we can find it.
meanwhile, what?
We can find it. Oh, it's Maria Sakkari. Well, that kind of answered the question.
That explains the question. That explains the question. That explains the question. And you don't know why we're laughing. It's because Maria Sakkari, like, honestly, like, I'm just gonna keep it nice. She doesn't have that a great track record in the major tournament, and she's prone to early upsets. So if I was a organization or tournament director, I'm like, why would I even bother putting her on a high court if she's going to kind of bow out early to begin with? So
Like
yeah,
for
I mean,
the
if there was
stats,
a top 10 player,
it would be her.
yeah.
The stats behind it speak to it because she has not even made anything past the 4th round since she made the semifinals of the U.S. Open in 2021, right? She hasn't made a quarterfinal at any of the Grand Slams since she made that semifinal. So I mean, that's indicative of what, like, great player, but that's indicative of kind of what box she's in. She can show up at Indian Wells or Rome and get some wins, but at the Grand Slams where the pressure's really on and like you really make a name for yourself, that's just not where she's been performing for the last couple of years now. So court 12 is where she ends up. Now, if she makes a fool out of all of us, then sure, then we just gonna have to eat crow, as they say. But yeah, court 12 is where I'd put her as well. Sorry. Any other name or chat today, Christian?
I think that might be it. I think we can, I guess, go ahead and wrap it up by talking about our pre-tournament picks to go deep and obviously win the title. You can
Oh
start if you
yes,
want.
yes. I'm interested. No, I'm interested to see who are your men's quarterfinalists.
Let me pull it up right here. Okay, so
I'll pull up mine.
um, I have Yannick Sinner and Grigor Dimitrov, the first quarterfinal, Carlos Alcaraz and Tommy Paul, the second one. This one's a little bit different. Oh, the last ones are definitely, yeah. Lorenzo Musetti and Taylor Fritz, and then Hubert Hurkacz and Holger Rune as the final quarterfinal. So I kind of wanted to do something a little different. It's not, yeah, those are my picks for now.
Mine's a little wild too, but they still have some top seeds in it. So my quarterfinal goes in order of how the draw is set up. Yannick Sinner versus Jan-Lennard Struff is the first quarterfinal. Second quarterfinal is Carlos Alcaraz versus Tommy Paul. Sign me up for that. Because Tommy Paul has really been difficult for Carlos Alcaraz. Lorenzo Musetti versus Taylor Fritz.
No, that's not.
What?
Sorry, go ahead. No, well, I was reacting to both what you said, and then who made this comment? Someone said we have the same men's quarterfinal. That's crazy. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry, what were you saying?
I think you put Musetti in your Wimbledon quarterfinals too, right?
Yep, Musetti, and yours was first as well.
Yeah, he's in my Wimbledon quarterfinals, so we're both gonna have egg on our faces if he doesn't go far, because he's liable to do that now. He's liable to make a fool out of us.
Yes, he for sure is.
And then the last quarterfinal is Alex de Minaur versus Holger Rune.
I like that.
Neither of us had Novak Djokovic in the quarterfinals.
No, what was your reasoning behind not having him there? I mean, I feel like it's an obvious. Yeah, I don't really. But
Do I
anyways,
need to
let
explain?
me think of. No, there's no need for that. But let me think of a better question. I guess obviously there were some snubs there. Let me look at the projected quarterfinal and compare it to yours. So you two did not have Dino Medvedev in the quarterfinal. Um, Obviously Casper Ruud, you don't have to explain why you didn't put him there. Um, so you didn't have two Russians who were projected to make the quarterfinal, and Dino Medvedev and Andrei Rublev. Do you want to explain why you kind of excluded them from making it that far?
I think I put Jan Lennart Struff on like having the best Grand Slam run of his career and taking out Medvedev. So that's kind of the feeling I went with. And then Rublev could lose to just about
Wait, but
anybody.
you had Struff there though instead of Medvedev in your
Yeah,
first
yeah.
quarterfinal.
I think because
Oh, you
Struff
said.
has
I'm sorry. I thought you said Yannick going on. My bad. Go ahead. My
no,
bad.
Jan
I
Lennart
misheard
Struff
you.
is gonna take out Medvedev in the third round if they both meet, and he keeps on that. He keeps that momentum going in
Hmm.
my fantasy world into the quarterfinals.
I see
Um,
that. I can see
and
that.
and then the other Russian that didn't make it out into the quarterfinals is Rublev, because Rublev can lose just about anybody if he decides to hit his racket 17 times in a row on his knee. So I mean,
Hmm. Yeah, and that Rublev, I want to make a comment there. Instead of Rublev, we both put Musetti there. That's a very tough section because there's Rublev, there's Musetti, obviously, there's Tsitsipas, and then there's Sebastian Korda. And Korda has been playing great on the grass recently, but I think I prevented him from going that far because his draw was a little bit tougher, and he was supposed to play Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, but Fokina withdrew from the tournament actually, and instead he's playing our guy Giovanni Impecci Petticard in the
wait,
opening round.
wait. This happened today.
Yeah, I saw Black
David
Spin Global made a tweet about it. Yeah, so
Wait,
Giovanni
so
Impecci Petticard.
the Davidovich Fokina is out and Giovanni and
Yes.
Pesci Pericard isn't. Look at God. Look,
Yep.
hallelujah. Because we wanted that. We wanted that. Because Giovanni has had
Yeah.
a good couple of weeks. And he's already in the top 100. So he really shouldn't have had to go through qualifying anyway. So I love that.
Right.
That's been the best news I've heard all day. Look at that. So yeah, maybe Giovanni and Pescicard make his way to the quarterfinals, which I would love. I'd love that. We'll see. Do you want to go with your women's quarterfinal projections, or not projections? Who you think is going to make it to quarterfinals?
Yeah, I had this is going to be kind of ugly, but I had Tom Tomljanovic.
Canceled.
Tomljanovic and Vondrousova in the first quarterfinal, Rybakina and Bolter in the second, Raducanu and Sabalenka. Raducanu, and this was before Sabalenka got the shoulder. I kind of want to change that. I don't know what I would change it to. Who was in her section? I forget. But in the meantime, I did have Raducanu and Sabalenka, and then Madison Keys and Coco Gauff being the last semifinal.
We got one of those correct. I'll give you my quarterfinals according to my picks in the fantasy draw. I have, and you'll see some people that are not there, which is fine. Yelena Ostapenko versus Danielle Collins in the quarterfinal. Now that's both of those are pretty risky picks because Ostapenko could lose first round, and so could Collins. Collins takes on Towson, and Ostapenko takes on Tomljanovic, which are both threats. But I went with it. The second quarterfinal also kind of a stretch because it's Samsonova, and I don't think Samsonova has ever made a Grand Slam quarterfinal. But
No, she
here
has
we
not.
are. But somebody who has is her opponent in that quarterfinal in my fantasy draw, Jessica Pegula. So
Okay.
I feel comfortable with that pick because she's shown that she can get that far. Further, we're not sure yet. This is another Russian who kind of sneaks up and plays good tennis when it's required, but you don't really see it coming. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova versus Mira Andreeva. That's a quarterfinal. And then the last quarterfinal was just like yours, Madison Keys versus Coco Gauff.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let me go back to Sabalenka because I did want to kind of change that because I don't think that she'll be healthy enough. I think instead of Sabalenka, if I were to change it, I would probably change it. Oh, this view is bad. Um, I think the Andreeva pick, maybe Kazakina, maybe her. Um, but yeah, do you want to answer that
Yes.
question?
Ryan said, Miles, do you think Rabakina's stomach is going to knock her out? It won't be Samsonova.
Oh yeah, you didn't pick Rybakina. Yeah,
Do I have to explain that?
yeah.
Okay, fine. Rabakina just hasn't shown herself to be a in one way, in one lane, she's shown herself to be a big match player, but in another lane, she has definitely not. Like her last couple of Grand Slam match losses, going backwards, it's Paulini at the French, Blinkova at the Australian Open, Kirstea at the U.S. Open, Wimbledon before that, it was Ons Jabeur. I'll give her a pass because Ons loved the grass. And then the French Open before that, she couldn't play because she had like COVID effects or the flu, and she just pulled out of the tournament before her third round with Sarah Sorribes Tormo. So besides the fact that she doesn't make me want to watch her tennis, like when I'm just by happenstance watching tennis and they flash to Rybakina match or what have you, I'm like, oh, she has really really smooth and solid strokes. I can say that confidently, but as far as a draw to make me turn on my television to watch Rybakina, she doesn't have it. She does not have it. And I want the players in my quarterfinals, my fantasy quarterfinals, I want them to have a little bit of it. Just a sprinkling of it.
So
And
Samsonova has it.
I'd rather watch Samsonova play than Rybakina. Yes. And now it's like 51-49. It's not like Samsonova is beating her out of the water, but yeah, if I had to pick, I'd pick Samsonova over Rybakina personally.
So who do you have? Who do you have Rybakina losing to? My guess is Alicia Parks in the third round.
I actually think it is. Yes, I think it's Alicia Parks. Which I'd love to see. Go Alicia Parks. Get your money, girl. Yep, it's Alicia Parks. I picked Alicia Parks to beat Rybakina just because I wanted that to be fun. And Alicia
I'm
Parks has
surprised
it.
she does. She definitely has it. I'm surprised you didn't both mention Naomi Osaka. The reason why I didn't mention her, honestly, when I made a tweet about this, not delusion. It is delusion. I know it is. But the reason why I didn't pick Naomi Osaka, I made a tweet and said her draw looks good. And I think maybe I didn't have a good look at it because in reality, it's not that great. We mentioned earlier her opening round opponent, Dion Perry, could be a little bit tricky. But then her little section has Pliskova potentially in the third round, and her and Pliskova have gone at it. And unfortunately, Naomi has kind of been on the losing end of those recent battles between those two. And
Mm.
then there's Vika Azarenka. You never know what you can get from her. I don't think Sloane will make it that far, although I would love to see her make it that far. And then I don't know. Emma Navarro too. We didn't mention her either, but she could do something as well if her and Naomi were to play in that second round. Navarro is another player who has a lot of like tricks, well, not a whole lot of tricks up her sleeve, but she's an overall very solid player and one that can for sure trouble Naomi. But did you have any thoughts on her, Miles?
I don't have much to add to the Navarro conversation. Solid player. We mentioned a Nepo baby earlier in the conversation, and she would definitely fall into that category. But good player, not saying that she doesn't deserve her place in the sport, but I haven't watched anything of Emma Navarro that makes me like circle her as a name of eventual Wimbledon champion or a semifinalist or anything of that nature. But again, the last two Wimbledon champions on the women's side, I didn't circle as as threats to the title. So all of that to say is I think there's a bunch of names floating around, especially on the women's side, obviously, that could kind of find a spark to do something at Wimbledon. It's just going to be interesting to see who it is, where it starts, and like how it plays out for the rest of the 2 weeks. That's really what I got.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think we've covered day one and talked about our predictions. And you said you had who winning the title on the men's side?
I had Yannick and Hurkacz make the final, a rematch of Halle, and then Sinner winning it. And then the women's, I'm changing it from Sabalenka, but Rybakina win the title, And I'll say Rabakina Keys final.
I have a Sinner Demonor Wimbledon final, a rematch of the Canada final last year, which I enjoyed. Even Sinner won comfortably, but I think that'll be kind of fun to watch. And then on the women's side, I hope this happened. Lord, if you're listening to me, if this microphone touches you, can we please get a Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula Wimbledon final with Coco Gauff lifting the trophy? That's what I'd like to see.
I would like to see it.
I would like to see it. Sign me up for that. I don't care if I sound delusional, and I know Pagula's never made it past a quarterfinal, but I'm honestly not that big on her, but I saw the draw kind of falling her way, and I think she has to crack the code eventually, right? You know, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll cross our fingers. But for the interest of time and us yapping our mouths for over an hour here, we're going to wrap it up there. And this is your time, Christian, to tell everybody that's been listening or listening and listening back via audio podcast platform where to find you, how to support you, and what you're doing if they missed that at the beginning.
Yeah, so you all can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube at Christian and TikTok at Christian's Court, and I'll be posting content throughout the next few weeks when I can, because like I said, I'll be in Disney in Florida. But yeah, super excited for Wimbledon.
I'm excited
and of course,
for it.
Thank you for having me, Myles, on your platform.
Of course. We've been trying to do this for a while, and we're going to do it again to wrap up Wimbledon and kind of talk about what we learned, because I think this could be I say this for every Grand Slam, but I really think this could be an impactful one with some fun storylines. So that'll do it. It sounds like you have a call coming in, Christian, so you might want to answer that one.
No, that was my dad. That was my dad who's in the kitchen right now.
Actually, don't answer the call and stay with me after we wrap up here, because I want to make sure I can actually get your audio. It doesn't go into the ethosphere of the internet and I can't download it, because that would suck. Either way, thank you guys for listening to another edition of Tuned Into Tennis. You can find me on socials at that same handle, at Tuned Into Tennis. We'll be making content all Wimbledon long. It's the biggest tournament in the world for a reason. It should be fun. Fingers crossed that it is fun. And feel free to engage with me and Christian for the next 2 weeks. We'll be talking tennis, tuned in, and on the court. So all of that being said, take care, guys. I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.